Okay, so as you know, we've been talking about the crisis of women describing how they've scared away men and that men no longer approach women in public. Now, obviously, I get comments from, like, literal dinosaurs saying, well, a man approached me today, so this is wrong. It's like, yeah, we're talking about young men. We're talking about Gen Z, the generation that actually has a stake in the future of society and the country, okay? I don't care if you're, like, in your 30s and 40s and the men that were born before iPhones are coming up to you because they actually don't understand how bad it is, okay? We are in a world where men are called creeps for approaching women, where men are discouraged from approaching women, and yet simultaneously are still expected to get a wife and to make kids at a young age, okay? And forget the fact that that in itself is hard enough with like the economy and women and all that stuff. It also has never been more scrutinized to not do that, to not get that, which is so sad, you know? Let's make the conditions impossible and then blame you for not being able to beat the game. Makes sense. Let's take a look at this. Beautiful women wonder why men don't approach them.
Interesting trend at the moment of very attractive women complaining that men are no longer approaching them. And I find this absolutely fascinating. So when I was a young man, I only plucked up the courage to actually just walk up to a random woman on the street once because she was really attractive and say, hey, would you like to go out? She turned me down, right?
I'm not even joking. Man, in order to approach a woman, most of the time, like, I think the easiest way to do this is like at a bar because you're inebriated. Because that's when the alcohol is making you forget the potential consequences that you might face, which for better or for worse is one of the only ways to actually make some guys approach women, right? Because if they're so worried that a woman will reject them or that she'll call them gross or whatever, that fear gets kind of removed when you're drunk. And it's kind of sad that that's kind of what it takes at this point, right? Because you would want it to be the case that without, you know, any vices or degenerative activities, you still have the courage to say hi to a girl that you find cute. But at this point in time, I think that's why we're all drinking. That's why we're all on the booze cruise, right? That's why we're all just slamming shots. So
every other time I've got girlfriends or women who have been interested in me, they've basically come to me and sort of signaled to me that they're interested. And so frankly, I've never been the sort of like, you know, walk up to a girl and just start chatting her up type. But that most of the time women will signal when they are interested in you.
You know what else I've noticed? There's unfortunately that because now talking to women kind of on the spot, completely randomly, is seen as like a special event. Every time I notice a woman gets approached, they assume that the guy who's approaching them has done this to like 20 other women, right? I hate that shit. I hate that because it's been so much less frequent that when it does happen, women just assume that the guy's like a pickup artist, which that makes it so that if you are also to try it, you're also like your request to get the girl's number is seen as it's deflated because the assumption is that you've done this a billion other times, which I hate.
And you just, if you're interested back.
When like I can imagine like 20 or so years ago, that would have been the only way to get a woman's number. So it's like, even if you tried it 20 other times with different women, what, can she really complain? It's like, how else are you supposed to get a woman?
You can pick it up and go from there. But I think that there is at least a certain kind of woman who enjoys the attention, right? Who likes to know that actually she is an attractive woman and she's flattered by men making the effort and, well, as this woman says, catcalling her. Let's listen.
What's this?
Tell me why every day I go out looking adorable, tits bouncing, skin glistening, and yet nobody ever hits on me or approaches me. Ever! Oh my god, like, please. I'll take a fucking construction worker catcall at this point.
So, now there are many people who are saying, well, and this is another video of the woman in the orange dress here. Again, very attractive women and men are just not approaching them. And they're becoming frustrated by it. And as Con here points out, many women, not all of them, spent the majority of the 2010s bitching about rape culture and misogyny and catcalling and Me Too, and now mad that young men aren't comfortable approaching them. You created the problem. I don't think it's just young men, although I think the age thing is an interesting question. Because, I mean, this woman looks like she's in her early 20s, and, well, do men in their early 20s actually spend a lot of time dating anyway? It seems that a lot of Gen Z are quite shy, introverted, not...
No, all my friends are autistic lifters who go to the gym, blast retarded music, and then try to hit a PR, then proceed to go home, look at crypto charts, and play video games. That's what life is now. And for better or for worse, that's what we have, okay? And there are cool parts about it. I think there are benefits to going to the gym and playing games with the boys. I love it. It's fun. and learning about the world and stuff without having most of your time be dedicated to the chase of women, it, you know, has its advantages. But at the end of the day, he's right. There is definitely less dating happening on net, and there would be more dating happening if more men approached women, and more men would be approaching women if the consequences weren't as scary, you know?
Great at approaching one another, and I mean, not entirely their fault. Probably a lot due to social media and the internet and the fact that they've got...
And it's sad, like, if you ever see a guy embarrass himself while approaching a woman on social media, the comments don't sympathize, like, at all. They're all like, holy shit, this is creepy. I'd change schools. I'd have to change jobs. I'd have to get a new identification. It'll be like some guy, right? I mean, for example, I saw a video this morning of a girl at the bar, and she's, like, getting videoed by her friend. She's kind of just, like, posing. I don't know. And then some guy comes, like, next to her, and then he starts, like, dancing or something, and he tries to, like, take her hand. And the girl is, like, not interested. She's like, and she kind of like recoils away, and the video ends, and the comments are just devouring this guy. They're just saying that, you know, oh, he's such a weirdo, why would you ever do this, and whatever. And it's like, okay, the problem is, and I've said this before, if you want more men to approach you on net, you have to accept the fact that with that comes some, you know, not so desirable interactions. Obviously, you shouldn't stand for being verbally harassed or stalked or anything like that. But if some guy, you know, awkwardly dances next to you and it makes you uncomfortable, it's just baked into the cake, okay? The good comes with the bad. And that, in the bad in this case is what? Like, he was like drunk and he embarrassed himself? It's not even that crazy, so yeah.
Phones, so they don't have to actually go up and personally involve themselves. And they seem to have been losing the customs on how to show someone that they're interested that isn't embarrassing or humiliating in some way, and that protects the dignity of both people involved.
I think another thing with modern society is that almost every single hobby can now be completed and participated in from your computer. And with that being the case, there's no real incentive to leave your house. So yeah, I mean, like, for what? Like, I enjoy playing video games, and I can socialize through games, but it's all through my computer, and I don't have to leave my house for that. Obviously, I would love to socialize in person, you know, play frisbee golf or go out and get food, do something, right? But when it comes to stuff that I do almost every day, I don't have to actually leave my house to do that. And so you're always going to be, unless you're in a war, like, unless you're in public where there's RNG of meeting new people, there's not even a chance of this happening in the first place. And we've made it so that life has less RNG in it by keeping us confined in our houses all day. Like, what's the chance that you have like a random person come up to you if you never leave your house? It's zero. So if you're doing things that increase your chances of RNG, like your chances of having random shit happen by anything, like anything, the exposure to the world, then this kind of stuff becomes more common. But the way that modern society is structured disincentivizes people to get that exposure to the real world.
And I don't blame them. I mean, these are things that I think generally haven't been well passed down. I remember my dad telling me, you've just got to go and ask. And the worst she can say is no. I mean, that's not true. The worst she can do is laugh at you. But that hasn't happened to me. But I can imagine that happens, and it's absolutely harrowing. But at the end of the day, as a man, it's tough, and you will get over it. It's not the end of the world. But the times that it does work, then you know when you think, okay, you know, that woman actually seemed to quite like me, and I'm going to go up and ask her out.
Yeah, well, even the things that have been said to actually encourage guys to talk to women or just to socialize are not true. Like, the worst she can say is no. Obviously, that would be like a nice way to look at things, and that if that were true, in actuality, I think it would result in more men approaching women, but we all know that's not actually true. The worst she could say is definitely not no. The worst she can say would be something probably along the lines of like yelling, please get away from me, I have a boyfriend, and then filming you, or her you know, fridge-sized friend comes into the conversation and tells you that you have to kick rocks. Like, all these sorts of things, right? That would not be good.
It's actually really gratifying, and you feel like you've accomplished something. I said I hadn't done once, but now I'm thinking about it. I have actually done it a few more times than that. It was only once that I walked past this woman, and I was just like, wow, she's really attractive. And I was single at the time, and walked up to her. But other times where it's, you know, like, I had a date with a girl who sold internet. She was, you know, one of the women on the street, you know, people on the street who's trying to sell broadband, whatever, you know, like 15, 20 years ago. I can't remember how long now. And I didn't want it, but I ended up getting it because she was really cute. And I asked her on a date, and she was like, "Yeah, okay, great." It didn't go anywhere, but like, you know, it was no big deal. But I ended up with that broadband for a goddamn year. But the point is, when you do it and it goes quite well, then okay, great, you know. But anyway, that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is there's definitely an atmosphere that was created by the feminism of the 2010s. And this, I think, genuinely has had effects. I mean, you know, Me Too, the hysteria about catcalling and misogyny and rape culture and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you can say thanks to Anita Sarkeesian, who herself probably been catcalled 1 or 2 times. She's not hideous, but you know, who had to marry herself incidentally. And now these women are feeling the effects of it. That's definitely an issue. And there are lots of women all over the place. It's not just like the odd TikTok video. Like this one here. I'm wondering if guys still approach women they don't know but are attracted to, or this basically never happens anymore. I, as a woman, don't get approached while walking the street in the grocery store, etc. Men seem to like me at work and on dating apps, but the approach thing from strangers just doesn't happen. And what's really funny is they're looking, going through this and being like, you know, oh, maybe we need to have some sort of social signal, like dropping a handkerchief to see if the guy's interested. And there was someone in this thread, I was reading through it before I started recording this, they're like, yeah, but what if the guy doesn't pick it up? That'd be devastating. Absolutely devastating. I don't know, I can't find the thing. But okay, yeah, it would. But at least it wouldn't be, like, obvious. At least you could play it off as if, oh, I just dropped that. I didn't mean to drop it. I wasn't trying to signal. But anyway.
What is it? Okay,
so yeah, you've got like other videos of women who are just trying to think of ways to get guys to approach them, because again, like I think for a lot of women, it's not necessarily that they are, you know, actually they want loads of guys to be hitting on them, but what I think it is just for them to feel secure about themselves, and also gives them something interesting to say about the night. Like it gives them a social status over other women that these two are talking about incidentally. It gives them sort of like, it's a story, right? That they can tell their friends and say, oh, yeah, this guy approached me. Oh my God, he was this, he was that, whatever. But also it reassures them. Oh, right, no, I am still actually attractive. Because a couple of years ago, I remember doing a video about women when they get older and they start to feel invisible. And it's because, like, when you're a young and attractive woman, you at least know that men notice you. Right. And I think that for a lot of attractive young women, they feel important. Right. They feel, oh, right, no, I have a place in society. And these guys are looking at me. They're checking me out. Even if they're not approaching me, I'm on their radar, right? They understand that I am a thing that matters in the grand scheme of men.
Well, attention is like something that matters on a very basic level, because to be seen in society is something that gives you value. Like if you're I don't want to get corny, but something, I forget what I saw, but there was a guy who got asked what his superpower would be between invisibility or like super strength, and he was like, I'm already invisible. And it is true that if you are not like someone who puts themselves out there, especially as a guy, if you're not actually like putting yourself out there in any way at all, even on the internet, no one's gonna know about you. No one's gonna notice you. You have to make a conscious effort to be seen. And that's tough, you know? A lot of women, they don't have to make that conscious effort to be seen just because of like them being a woman who's attractive. They're just seen already. It just goes to show that attention is something that on a very basic level contributes to our well-being in society. Like you need attention. You just do. Whether it's from friends, family, from strangers, any sort of attention is inherently validating because it acknowledges your existence. Like, would you rather be like not known by anybody, and if you died, no one would care or know, or someone who's like controversial but is like loved and hated pretty evenly that a lot of people know about and talk about? You would definitely go with the loved and hated one. If you were the person who nobody knew about at all, and if you died, no one would care or know, and they wouldn't find your body for literally weeks, respectfully, I mean, not to get too graphic, no one would want that. Like nobody at all. At that point, you don't matter. Like obviously as a human you matter, life matters, but to society, how can they claim that you matter if they don't even know you, if they don't engage with you at all, if they don't even give you any sort of basic attention? I'm not trying to go nihilistic or black pill on this, but it is true. Like there is something that you can't shake about the human plight, about wanting other humans to validate you in different ways. It's a fundamentally thing that you can only have if you're antisocial. If you are truly not like an introvert, because introverts still interact with society. They still want some basic level of attention, but just less, right? They want more like intimacy, that sort of attention, not from like strangers. But if you're truly antisocial, the kind of person that hates society and humanity, that would be a mental disorder, and it would be something that is very different from a normal person. So yeah,
female relationships. And so in society itself, I'm sort of put on the map. But what these women are really complaining about is, I think, that they feel that they aren't on the map anymore. And this is the same thing that the older women were complaining about. When women get to like their 40s and 50s, and men are no longer just checking them out. You know, they no longer catch men just having a sideward glance, you know, admiringly. Which, again, the feminists have done a superb job of stigmatizing this. But actually, I think for a lot of women, and just a tangent on this, think about the kind of women who are feminists. Very rarely the attractive ones, right? Very rarely the ones who are getting catcalled. So in a way, feminism was kind of like a negative mating strategy, and they've ruined it for the decent-looking women. And you can thank your sisters on that one. They were fighting for your rights, not to feel flattered when you're walking around at night in your best clothes, looking as gorgeous as you can. Like, your sisters have done this for you. But I think they're entering the same status as women who grow older. And so, you know, when women get to like their 50s and men are no longer, like, they're no longer a presence on the radar. They're no longer, oh, maybe she's maybe she'd be interested or something like that. That no longer happens because men just aren't thinking, okay, I want a 50-year-old woman. I'm going to pick up a 50-year-old woman. So it's one of those things that the older invisible women who didn't get married and don't have kids and don't have families, this is one of the things that, by the way, ladies, you're going to want to get married and have kids so you don't turn into one of these invisible women. It will happen to you too, because this is the nature of what the manosphere uncharitably but fairly calls the wall. When you reach the menopause, frankly, you stop being a viable mate in evolutionary terms, and then that just means that men don't generally tend to check you out. And younger women, it seems, are actually encountering this firsthand.
That's not a very controversial thing to say, even if you don't say it in the nicest way possible, but it's true. The older you get, the less attractive you become, just based on aging, how aging affects the skin, how it affects your facial features, your appearance overall. Yeah, I mean, the older you get, you become uglier. Like, that's not controversial. There's a direct correlation there, and it's not like, I'm not saying that people who are older don't deserve love or attention or anything like that, but it's just how that works, right? Youth is something that people want. You know, if you have a lot of money but you're 70 years old, like, would you trade some of that money for your years back? I think everyone would say yes. So that's not controversial at all. But here's the thing, what he's saying about, like, it's not about having menopause or not being able to be fertile that is what turns men away from, like, older women. It's really just the appearance, right? Like, if you're in your 20s and 30s and you're an attractive woman, like, you'll still get shitloads of attention. You know, that's why so many women get facelifts when they get older, because they want that youth, you know, so they're going to achieve it artificially.
Strategizing, well, what can we actually do to not be invisible? Because, you know, we're still potential mates. What can be done? I mean, this is a fascinating video. This is absolutely fascinating. Let's watch this.
Scene is getting
what
so
the
bad
fuck is this? Dating in New York City has gotten so bad that girls are stealing lunch orders from finance bros and stalking them on LinkedIn.
Fascinating video. This is absolutely fascinating. Let's watch this.
The dating scene is getting so bad in New York City that I am seeing on TikTok there are girls going into Midtown during the week and stealing finance bros salads for lunch. And then looking their name up from the salad order on LinkedIn and then messaging them through there and being like, hey, oh my god, so sorry, I grabbed your salad, like, let me just make it up to you and buy you a new one. And that's how they're, like, sliding it, which honestly...
That's kind of... I mean, honestly, I don't even hate that. That's not even that bad.
Smart.
Yeah, it's smart. It's kind of cute. It's clever, and if that takes some some skill, some attention.
Stealing men's salads, like, that's...
I don't support it, but it's kind of charming.
Can't they just come up to us at a bar? Like, why is it getting to this point?
But to be fair, I don't want to generalize, but women in New York City are kind of fucking insane.
Men just just please step up or your salad's gonna fucking get taken. Your lunch is gonna get taken every week. Like, I'm seeing girls get so creative these days. Like, they're making bracelets with their phone numbers on them and giving them to you guys at the bars. They are taking pictures of you sneakily and then being like, hey, oh my god, making it their phone screen, and being like, hey, can you take a picture of me and my friends so you can see that your picture is their home screen. All just different ways to try to talk to you guys, because you guys don't come up to us in New York City, and it's crazy.
Okay, some of that was weird. If I talked to a woman and she had my picture
Okay, yeah, that's like...
as her phone screen, I'm like, the hell's happening, man? Is this like some sort of weird, creepy Truman Show thing? But there we go. I mean, that is clever and creative.
Listen, I'm not saying, like, I think with this conversation, there's sometimes some false conclusions about what the fix is, right? The fix isn't that women should start approaching men, and then we just, like, reverse the roles. I don't think that's the answer. I think the problem is that there needs to be a societal deconditioning from what men have learned. You need to unlearn a lot of the stuff that you've been told, which is just ridiculous, okay? And part of that unlearning came from the internet during the red pill wave. A lot of that came from men like Andrew Tate and men like Myron Gaines telling people how to approach a woman and like how you speak to them, what body language, what riz tips, all this stupid shit to replace some of the conditioning that was instilled by feminism, right? It was the counterculture. And that had its own problems, right? I think at the end of the day, a full reset where there's just reasonable expectations from both sides would probably be the best thing for, going forward. Now, obviously, that's just like so idealistic and so easy to say, just as like, oh, we should all just love each other and it should be easy. But in terms of like a practical solution, I think that we live in a very anxious society. And I think if there was less anxiety around talking to women and women with men, like, I think men are very anxious about talking to women, and women are very paranoid about being like stalked or harassed by men. And so if some of that paranoia went away and you realize that not all men are creepy, and if men had less anxiety and thought not all women are evil, then we could probably get somewhere. Now, again, it's still idealistic, but at the end of the day, if there was some sort of phenomenon culturally that allowed for that to become mainstream, I think we'd be in a better place. What that looks like, I have no idea. Maybe it's a social media star. Maybe it's just different shit. I don't know. Trends, whatever. We'll see. But at the end of the day, for the longest time, the human race has been repopulating, and now we're making less children than ever and dating less than ever. So something does have to change, and I don't know what it actually is, but a part of me thinks that just as humans we'll figure it out, but a part of me is worried that I don't know. Acheeto doesn't actually help that Acheeto doesn't help that the role models, yeah, exactly, people like Taint and Gaines is partially, you spelled that wrong. The huge problem with the youth today, feminism is largely the cause as well, but it's not the overall problem, though. Yeah, I mean...
Oh, I took your salad by accident, blah, blah, blah. But this is what I mean, like, women will signal that they're interested, but I guess if they're not getting approached at all, well, this is actually becoming a problem for them, isn't it? Again, there are loads of videos of very attractive women who are just like, why can't I get a man? And one can't help but feel that it might be a sort of confluence. I think technology definitely has a role to play in this, and the kind of unwinding of society and the shared social customs and traditions that instructed men and women on how exactly to actually meet one another. I think that is genuinely a thing that's happened, although I obviously can't quantify it in any way. But I also do think it's the feminism. I do think that, like, a lot of men feel like they were essentially kind of beaten out of ever approaching women, and they're like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to come across as like some insane creep or anything. But Lisa Britton here makes a good point. There's a trend of women asking, well, what's wrong with men? Maybe they're asking the wrong question, and someone replies, well, they should hang out in the forest. I'm sure the bears would approach them. Well, touche. But this is something that a lot of men are worried about. They worry about coming off as creepy. And so it's like, well, there's the whole problem with feminism is that, I mean, there are lots of problems with feminism, but one of the main issues with feminism and why most women are not feminists, right? I remember back in like 2014 or whatever, the feminists were like, 80% of women agree with gender equality, and yet only like 10% of women call themselves feminists. Why? And it's because feminism contains within it a dark animus against men as men. They hate men, and they actually seek to destroy men. They seek to unseat them from their positions of power and authority because they're men, not because they've done anything wrong. They just...
Feminism is something that is highly contentious on a definition point of view, because when women call themselves feminist, it is so hard to even know what the fuck that means, because I don't know if they're talking about the kill all men thing. It's this huge umbrella where the people who sit under it in some cases have nothing in common at all. Why is the person who's calling themselves a feminist because they believe that women have the right to vote in the same camp, holding the same label as the girl who thinks that men should be like eradicated and, you know, should be completely thrown out of society, right? Like, why is that the same thing? Why are they using the same label? How is that even possible? It doesn't make sense. That's like saying, oh, I'm a racist, but I believe that all races are equal. And then you're under the same label as a guy who's like, I'm racist. I don't think all races are equal. So it doesn't even make any sense. It makes no fucking sense at all. And the problem is that, let me just hear what he said one more time.
Power and authority. Destroying men. They seek to...
Yeah, so it's like the issue is that when feminism is criticized, it's never because of the people who are saying reasonable things who call themselves feminists. That's never why. And so we have an issue here where people who want to think that feminism is the equality of men and women, and then people who want to criticize feminism, they think that they're at odds, but they're actually not. Because no one who is criticizing feminism doesn't think that men and women should be equal. That's the problem, is that there's a misunderstanding of the criticism of feminism to begin with, right? And there's also a misunderstanding of the perception of feminism from women's part, because some women think it's like, oh, obviously I'm a feminist, but it's like, well, it's actually not obvious when your label has been so hijacked, right?
Unseat them from their positions of power and authority because they're men, not because they've done anything wrong. They just are resentful and spiteful against men. And if these women were allowed to control the discourse for a decade, which they were, well, unsurprisingly, that does have consequences. That does have a knock-on effect that people go, oh, right, okay. If for some reason this is representative of women, and we all agree that the feminists represent women, well, then things change to...
Exactly. So, again, there's an issue with the perception, right? They have a terrible PR crisis.
You get a natural and reasonable reaction to what is being broadcast.
And the reality is, and this is the truth, and take this how you will, I'm not making a claim that less women should call themselves feminists here, because maybe they can call themselves feminists and just need to make it clear what that means. But as of right now, I would make a pretty good guess. This would be my opinion, that if less women identified as feminists, more men would approach women. Now, why that is, I think it's as simple as, like I said, because of what you have under the umbrella. And a lot of the shit under the umbrella makes it so that men are disincentivized from approaching women.
So men are like, right, okay, I'm not allowed to approach women anymore. I don't want to come off as some guy of Mad Men or something, some dinosaur. And so a lot of men just won't, even if they see an attractive girl and they think, oh God, I wish I could. Apparently a lot of them don't. And now the women are beginning to notice this. And a lot of men just have never approached a woman in person.
I don't even know if this is true.
And 70% of men say the number one reasons they don't approach women is fear of rejection. So this is another thing. And this is something that when I was young, women actually how to say it. There was less need for performative cruelty, right? Because when I was young, there was no social media. You weren't going to record this, put it up. You weren't going to share it online and get loads of upvotes, likes or whatever. There was no, a girl would tell like 3 or 4 of her friends, her close circle of friends, and they'd titter and whatever when you walk by. But there was nothing really in being performatively sort of belligerent when rejecting someone. And
true.
Honestly, and I know I'm going to sound like old man here, but when I was younger, I mean, there were plenty of girls that I thought liked me, that I asked out, and that didn't like me, and they were quite kind when they said, "Oh no, no, thank you." Right? I appreciate the offer, but no, thank you. And that's rough, but it's not devastating. And within the next day, you just get over it and you carry on with your life. It's just the way that things go. Sometimes you roll the dice with someone that you either know or work with or whatever, and sometimes you don't get what you want. But I think that now there's a kind of hard edge to it, and I genuinely think it comes from feminism. I genuinely think it comes from a culture of thinking that men are basically oppressive and kind of hateful, frankly. And it's a culture that genuinely stigmatized men. And I can definitely see that as a younger man now, I would definitely say it's scarier as a younger man now to approach a woman. I could see why. I think this is more of an American thing. I get the feeling that over in Britain, it's probably still not that bad. Although I have to say, I'm just judging from the young men I know in this age bracket that I know, because of course I never approach women. I don't go anywhere or do anything, and with women.
I mean, this point is so simple. Like the fear of rejection is not the fear of rejection. It's the fear of being rejected in the most disparaging way you can imagine. It's the fear of getting flamed, like how you would get flamed in an Xbox live chat party in 2007 in like a COD lobby when you're getting called slurs, even just just because you squeaked and you're like going through puberty, you get called the F slur by like 10 old men. That's what people are afraid of. It's not just like, oh hey, oh my god, like that's so kind of you. Thank you. Like, I appreciate the compliment. I have a boyfriend though, but I mean, have a good day. Like that sort of stuff. That's best case scenario. Well, best case scenario would be like you hit it off, right? But best case scenario on the rejection, because rejection is not ideal when you are approaching a woman, right? But it's not just that you'll get rejected, it's that you'll get rejected in this way that will be, like you said, cruel. And there is, in a pretty fucked up way, kind of this incentive to be cruel when you're rejecting someone. Now, is it like a crazy incentive? Not really. But if you make like an eel face when a guy asks for your number and then you post it, there is something like a chance of going viral, which that never existed previously. I mean, but that's just a wider argument for the internet, right? Like, okay, the internet incentivizes people to do dumb shit. It incentivizes people to do bad things because you can get easy access to attention, right? So it's not this specifically, but you can see that it has had a pretty big impact.
Not at all. But I can see why younger men now would feel like it's more worrisome than it was when I was young. But maybe I'm overreacting. Honestly, I want to open this up to you guys in the comments, because honestly, I don't know, and but there's got to be something to it, right? There's got to be something here, because it is weird that you get very beautiful women going, well, where the hell are the men? And the men going, well, look, we're a bit too afraid to approach you. There has to have been some reason for it, and it honestly probably is feminism.
Yeah, well, good video. Sargon is, he's been doing this forever, so I think a lot of good arguments. Nothing I really disagree with. Anyway, cool video.